Osamu Tezuka, possibly the most influential name in Japanese media. Inspired by the works of Walt Disney, Tezuka ultimately made a name of himself where now people have often compared him to Disney. Thanks to his legendary works such as Astro Boy, Kimba the White Lion, Phoenix, Princess Knight, and many more, he completely revolutionized both manga and anime to become the industry titans that they are today. In fact, his influence can still be found to this day in the latest mangas that you're reading or in the latest animes that you're watching. Without a doubt, he is the most influential, inspiring, and the horniest man in Japan! Seriously, when his libido takes over, he's not just horny on main, he is horny on everything! Actually, as a real good example, back in 2016, around 200 sketches were discovered made by Osamu that highlighted some of his, pleasurable preferences. This is not to judge, but based on his art, he seems to have a thing for naked women transforming into a variety of animals, objects, and your guess is as good as mine, and also for curvy mouse girls. Who knows? Since he was a huge Disney fan, maybe he had a crush on Minnie Mouse. But if you want the greatest example of his horny powers, then look no further than his 1970 animated feature, Cleopatra. Part of the anime Rama trilogy, this was actually a desperate attempt by Tezuka to save his company, Mushi Productions, hoping that by making what's pretty much porn, he'll be able to save his company with the help of TNA. Unfortunately, it did not work, and in the long run, we are left with one of the most curious movies made by one of the biggest names in animation. So now that we're going back in time and literally f***ing history, does this movie have a good personality to match that hot bod? Or is this just going to be a one-night stand? Let's find out. The story. This is a rare case where the movie is not just an adult animated feature, but this has a straight-up X rating. Yes, eroticism will have its moments to grab the audience's attention, but it will still have the mentality of being a movie with the freedom of discussing complex and mature themes to keep itself sophisticated. In the case of Cleopatra, there is a term for what I've described, and that is called wishful thinking. I might as well start with how the story is just a complete mess, and the biggest problem with the feature is that there's just no sense of direction. Even if the movie had two directors with Tezuka and Eiichi Yamamoto, the tone feels like it's all over the place and always unsure of what it wants to be. Sometimes it wants to be an erotica to show sexy naked women, but then it can spontaneously switch to becoming either a straightforward period piece, a romantic drama, an art house film, a kabuki-style theater production, or even a Looney Tunes cartoon. Some could argue that Tezuka was in his experimental phase and wanted to try out several things to capture different effects. I mean, experimenting is fine, but it ultimately causes the movie to always feel inconsistent and unexpected in a way that leaves the audience always lost. You could start with a sex scene between Cleo and Julius Caesar, and then Julius will suddenly be cartoonishly hopping around. Sure, it can work to have some people invested when watching the movie, but it's for the unintended way where instead of investing in the story, you just want to see what weird and random surprises will come next. Not to mention that whatever it tries to do unironically is not that effective in the first place. Like, the serious moments don't leave much of an impact, and the comedy sets a really low bar where the moments that can make you laugh are less likely to be from them. Also, if you're expecting any form of historical accuracy and staying true to the life of Cleopatra, then this is not for you. In fact, part of the unexpected nature of the film is from the fact that it just doesn't care about accuracy. But, to be fair, it did warn its viewers at the start that this story is a fiction. In fact, the film even throws in modern elements with no explanation of how they're even there, and adds to the confusion of what's happening. Like, do you know what's the best weapon to use in a gladiatorial battle? A gun. No, not an ancient gun, not a gun with Roman technology, just a simple modern-day gun. And everyone knows that no gladiator fight would be complete without Astro Boy popping out of nowhere. But despite all of its inconsistencies and a fully random tone, there is actually somewhat of a story that lies within the madness, and a pretty solid one at that too. In the core of it all, this is about Cleopatra and her reign as the Queen of Egypt, where she struggles between getting rid of the Romans so that they don't take over the country, and her romantic affairs with the Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. When it does focus on the title character, there is a narrative that is interesting to follow and can work both as a period film and as an X-rated movie to give meaning to the sex scenes while still retaining that sexy edge.
私たちローマへ行くんですって。
そう。エジプト征服を土産に元老院で勢力を伸ばそうってんでしょ。
あの人私を愛してるわ。
汚らわしい。こんなたらしの侵略者に愛されてるだなんて。
But she doesn't always get the spotlight though. There is another narrative that is featured where, out of all the things that happen in the film, this is honestly the weirdest because, believe it or not, Cleopatra has a sci-fi side plot. Yes, I am not kidding, and don't worry, I will talk about what you're looking at later. So, the reason why the movie is telling you the story of Cleopatra is because some people from the future want to stop aliens from executing what they call the Cleopatra plan. And in order to understand what the plan is, 3 of them go back in time and have their souls placed on past figures with ties to Cleo so that they can get involved firsthand with the main story. And once they get their ancient identities, the plotline gets completely forgotten until the end of the picture. There was absolutely no need for that sci-fi element, and nothing would change if it was taken out. But it sure does set the tone that you should expect the unexpected. There is an idea for a story in this. An erotic retelling of Cleopatra can actually work. But if only that idea was attached to a movie that knew what it was doing. The animation. Maybe it could be the case that Tezuka wanted to be a bit more experimental with this picture, because what's bigger proof of that more than the story's inconsistent tone is the animation. The film doesn't really have a consistent style that it always sticks to, but rather, it wants to try everything at once. Yes, it has the usual anime style with some action-packed moments, but then it tries limited animation, abstract animation, the UPA-like simplified style, bringing famous art pieces to life, and more. Unlike the story, where all the different tones end up hindering the overall experience, the variety of animation styles deliver a mixed result. There are times when going outside of the usual look is actually beneficial and makes it feel a bit more artistic in its approach, and can even serve a use to emphasize the mood of the moment. This is especially the case with Cleopatra's sex scenes, where instead of straight up showing the action, it uses abstract imagery to symbolically present her getting it on with the Romans. Not to mention that, on their own, some can be enjoyable to look at and can deliver some interesting effects. However, even if it can work sometimes, there is still the issue of the film lacking a sense of direction. Sure, some of the styles can look pretty cool, but a good amount of them don't have a true meaning to why that particular style is being used. It's almost as if the filmmakers decided to throw everything on the wall in terms of what they want to do and go with whatever sticks. It's not the fact that it uses a variety of styles is the problem, but rather, they don't serve much purpose to the plot or help set a proper mood for the scenes. Like, when the Romans were invading Egypt, is this supposed to be a tragic moment or a funny one? Again, there is no sense of direction or purpose. It just does things for the sake of experimenting. But amongst all the styles, there is technically a main style, and that too can be pretty mixed. On one hand, the movie does often present some great backgrounds to show ancient Egypt and Rome to bring us back to those ancient times. However, the movie also has a lot of questionable character designs. I know a lot of it is from Tezuka's signature style and done by Kojima, but it's like he tried for a more realistic approach with most of the people, and it doesn't work as well as his cartoony style that defines his works like Astro Boy. Some do have that, and they look fine, like Mark Antony, and I'd even say that Julius Caesar looks pretty good too. But then others like Cleopatra and the ones who help her look a bit off. Not to mention that, yes, I know beauty is subjective, but for an X-rated movie that wants to flaunt a lot of tits and ass, many of these girls don't really look sexy. Especially with those weird sausage lips and boobs that look unnaturally round, like too good to be true for them to not be implants. But of course, I can't forget to talk about the weirdest animation style it has to offer, that opening sci-fi scene, where instead of just animating the scene, it decided to film live-action footage and then rotoscope the heads. It's a unique technique that no one has ever replicated since. And with good reason. The heads look so out of place, the footage tries to emulate the anime limited style to weird effects, and there's just nothing about it that works. It's a style that makes me ask, why?
何を始める気かしら。
そうさな、俺の勘では。
As you can see, the animation is just all over the place. Some styles can work, some styles just don't. Some enhance the picture, and some feel meaningless. It's a major mixed bag, but there's still a part of me that can't help but credit the valiant effort. The characters. Okay, I get that we're at the point where analyzing this is getting a bit silly. Like, should we really care about the characters of an X-rated movie? For many, they only ask 2 questions about them. How hot are they, and can I fap to this? Well, for the horny folks watching this, while you see nothing with the men, there is definitely a large supply of naked girls and boobs and butts flying free, especially showing off all of Cleopatra. There is just one thing that you should consider. Do you find this sexy? Because almost all the girls look like this, and if this doesn't strike your fancy, then a big part of its purpose may not work for you. However, this is not to say that the movie didn't try to have characters with actual personalities. Yeah, they're not great, but there is an actual attempt here. Let us begin with the queen herself, Cleopatra. Throughout the movie, her mission is to get rid of as many Roman leaders necessary so that the Egyptians can get rid of them during the conquest, which includes seducing them to keep their guard down. However, even before that, she had to go through some magical plastic surgery in order to achieve her signature beauty. Which, the process is already crazy in itself, as you can see, but am I the only one that finds that she's more attractive before the transformation? I mean, she's still got a nice bod, and her face isn't all that bad. I'm just saying, natural beauty is the best beauty.
この世に美の極みがあるとすればクレオパトラ、あなたですわ。
でも作り物ですわ。
自然の花は枯れるものと作り花はいつまでも枯れません。
Anyways, while she's prepared to save her country from the Romans, the real conflict is her romantic affairs with people like Caesar and Antony. She's in too deep and does fall in love with them. In fact, she even has a son with Caesar, who only appears in one scene and then never gets mentioned again. Sure, they end up dying and her mission is still going strong, but it gradually takes an emotional toll on her while she feels less like an actual queen of Egypt and more like a tool to take down the Romans.
になったら終わるのよ。
終わりません、クレオパトラ。エジプトへの侵略が続く限り。もうたくさん、もうたくさんよ。アポロドリア、本物の私をちょうだい。
As As for her lovers like the green-skinned Caesar and Mark Antony, they both are similar where they are tough on the battlefield, but can be gentle lovers with Cleo. But the main difference is that Caesar is borderline insane and his hunger for power is what caused his downfall, and Mark is a goofier kind of guy who's trying to build up his low self-esteem. Not as defined as Cleo, but they play interesting roles to show the historical relevance of the Roman conquest and how these different guys help her make her feel special as a woman. But then there is the one who is truly in charge of the Roman opposition, Apollodoria, who is always by Cleopatra's side to remind her of her mission, and I'm not sure, but I got a feeling that maybe she's in love with her.
祖国のためですよ、勇気を出して。アポロドリアがついています。ね。
But what about the future people? What role do they play in this historical erotica? Well, after jumping into a time machine that may or may not get them killed, they just haven't fully tested the thing to make sure that it works well.
もちろん元には戻れるんでしょうね。
多分。できたばかりでね、そこまで実験してないの。途中で故障したら皆さんお戻りになれないかも。
Their souls get extracted onto 3 different characters that eventually help Cleopatra. There's Ionias, a strong and handsome Greek slave who has to mostly use his brains to become the toughest warrior under the Roman Empire, Libya, the topless handmaiden of Cleo that becomes Ionias' love interest, and Lupa, who is literally just a horny leopard. With the exception of Lupa, who is just meant for failed comedy, Ionias and Libya do have intriguing roles with their own subplot that could debatably work as its own movie. Unfortunately, their connection to the main story is minimal, and they don't have enough screen time to really play with their potential or use much of the concept of having souls from the future. Also, it's worth noting that the movie features several classic manga characters to come in and make cameo appearances. But unless you really know your manga history and recognize who they are, you'll be left confused wondering why that out-of-place character is in this movie. Then again, even if you know who they are, their cameos still make no sense. Even right now, I'm still wondering why that fight scene needed Astro Boy. There's no denying that all the characters could have been handled a lot better. There are a few that the movie would have been improved if they were cut out, but many of them stand out as the strongest aspect of the film and prove that this has the right materials to produce a solid picture. Of course, as an X-rated movie, you can expect this to be quite dirty. It's just that the definition of dirty may not be what you'd expect. Osamu Tezuka's Cleopatra is a chaotic experiment that delivers a wide variety of results that ultimately leaves its viewer with a wild and confusing experience. It does supply some solid substance, but they always come with a catch that end up hindering their value. The story is promising to present the romantic life of Cleopatra, but the lack of direction causes the tone to go all over the place and fail to capture any mood. The animation is interesting with its large quantity of styles, but very few actually make sense. There's a lot of sexy women getting naked, but the erotic effect is debatable at best. And the cast is strong and gives some interesting layers to the love story, but it's clear that none of their potential is truly met. I won't say that this is a really bad movie, but I could see this being enjoyed as a so bad it's good type of film. Like the kind where you and your friends get together and just have fun experiencing the feature's random nature instead of unironically watching this as a movie telling you a story, or even something that sets that special mood. This is obviously not a great example of Osamu Tezuka's works, but this definitely earns the title of one of the weirdest cartoons from Japan. And considering how anime can be, that's really saying a lot. Well, you didn't expect this to start off with seeing me in this kind of place now, did ya? Well, in order to clarify everything, let me just say, welcome everybody to Horny Jail. And I will admit that this is not the first time that I am in this cell, actually. And you know, the funny thing is that even with this movie, which, by the way, this is actually a Patreon request that came from Adela Archuleta, so I just want to go and thank her for her support on Patreon, which did get her this review, but I don't know if I truly want to say thanks because, well, her request did result me into being here again. And the thing with Cleopatra is that I did try to tell the horny police that I wasn't really that turned on by what they showed in the movie. But because of the fact that I did present the review as is and that I did admit that pre-op Cleopatra was actually pretty hot, which, I mean, I'll admit, she is actually pretty cute, you know, a pretty attractive girl. But even with that, because of those things, that's what landed me in here. Again. Oh, well, I mean, I guess, well, for the experience of Cleopatra, I suppose it was worth it to say that I've watched it, but, oh boy, the horny police is not a group of people you really want to mess with. But I will say, though, there is one benefit, is that they do allow us to bring something with us while we're spending time in horny jail. And luckily, I did ask them for one thing, which they did allow, and that is the animation hat. And before I go and continue, I just want to start this off by saying that if you guys would like to be like Adela and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and that I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Alright, so I guess, well, this will give me some form of entertainment while I'm in here. Ah, there we go, I got one. So, the next review now shall be, hopefully it will be something that will get me out of this. Okay. Ah, this is actually a nice one. You know, I actually did review the sequel of this, so I knew that it was only a matter of time that I actually get into the original movie itself.
Hey, what do you have there? You're not gonna go and review another horny movie, are ya?
No, don't worry. This is not something in which I will be horny and then land back here again. Besides, I think it's pretty impossible to get horny over a movie that stars a little girl and a puppy that is actually an alien. Oh, right. I'm stuck here, aren't I?
Well, duh, that's kind of the point.
Oh boy. Well, at least there is some time to wait until the next review.
あっと驚くためごろか